earlier with the start time. We'll have, of course, CBS News at the top of the hour, and then we always have the birthdays and anniversaries announced. We're going to keep those here in the 9 o'clock hour, so you'll go from CBS News to the birthdays and anniversaries, and then into Rewind. So Casey wanted to force Mason and I to have to come in earlier in the morning.
I did. I wanted to make sure that you guys were up when I was, and so that I wasn't the only one in here.
Yeah, I'd wonder if Mason will still be having the hoodie pulled over his head.
100%.
Was Mason like me, where when I came in for sports for KCIM on Tuesdays, I rolled out of bed and I would have been awake for like 10 minutes before I got in here.
That is exactly what happened. Hey, I got up at about probably 9:15 and threw the hoodie on, and I'm like, all right, let's get in there for Rewind.
Yeah.
I got in here, and the excitement just kicks on the second you see probably about 9:28.
Yeah,
we're hoping with moving it a little bit longer, we could talk to more kids that are out playing college sports from the area and stuff like that, so bring you more interviews and everything like that. We just kind of felt like it was good to give a little more time to talk about everything. So, it's kind of half hour. It gets hard to fit everything in.
It does, and they're almost every Tuesday we either go past 9 o'clock or past 10 o'clock, or we end up having to cut off in the middle of kind of conversations. We have so many athletes at the college level that we've covered that are doing good things. And with as many things high school-wise and college-wise that we talk about, not just college local athletes, but the colleges, Iowa State, those type of things, and what's going on nationally with college sports, that we didn't really have time. I'd like to be able to catch up with college athletes throughout the year. That doesn't mean that every single Tuesday we're going to have, a college athlete on, but I think you'll start to find a lot more interviews as a part of the show where we're going to be able to touch base and keep up more with a lot more of our college athletes as the season goes on. Because sometimes, like for example, I want to get, Caden Cook on and talk to him about playing over at Iowa State, and his career over there. Well, we're so busy at this time of the year, we almost have to wait until in between this season and spring, or during the spring season. It would have been nice to have him on as his career at Iowa State kind of wrapped up, and stuff, instead of pushing kids back. And then it takes away from kids in the spring sports season that we don't get an opportunity. So this extra 20 to 25 minutes, every Tuesday is going to benefit us, I think.
Not starting until April 7th, so just give you a little bit of heads up on that. We got a little bit for it, but something that's going to be coming up soon. And we got one more housekeeping item to take care of before we get into local sports talk today, and it's actually about the KCIM Sports Rewind event.
Yes, we've got everything solidified as far as the date and everything. It'll be Saturday, March the 14th, and that'll be out at the Carroll High School gym like it always is. We thank Carroll High and Randy Beeson again for allowing us to use their gym all the time to host our events in the fall and in the winter sports season, and then we use their softball field as well in the summertime. But we'll start at about 11 o'clock in the morning. That way everybody can kind of have their afternoons, go grab a bite to eat. The event should take just a couple hours. We've kind of mastered on getting it down to about 2.5 hours as we move through it. We're going to honor girls and boys basketball, girls and boys wrestling, boys bowling, girls bowling, and boys swimming. So the bowler and swimmer will just be our bowler of the year for bowling and swimmer of the year for swimming. We'll have 20 to 30 girls basketball players invited. We'll have 20 to 30 boys basketball players invited. Wrestling, there's no really lock on the number, but we'll have wrestlers invited as well. So we'll have a first team and a second team for both the girls and boys wrestling. And the three of us and some other people will get together and kind of figure out who we're all going to invite. If I remember right, we're going to work on wrestling coming up this weekend a little bit, I think, for the girls, and then the boys wrestling will be about a week later and stuff. So we're going to kind of space out the announcements of who's going. In the past, we just sent out one large announcement of here's all the kids invited, and it was all the different sports, and now we're going to break it down so it'll be girls wrestling, and then we'll probably throw out bowling and boys wrestling, and then the basketball stuff will come a little bit later on because we want more of their season to be able to be completed. But to be able to get the shirts in time, we can't wait until just a couple of days before the event to get the invites out. Plus, we want kids to be able to take the time and know when it's coming, so hopefully we don't get too many families scheduling vacations and trips and all of those things. That's going to happen anyway. But we're trying to schedule it around like state AAU wrestling. I've had a tendency in the past to schedule it on that weekend. Now I've looked that weekend date up and tried not to schedule it on that weekend and those types of things. So
yeah, it's going to be free and open to the public, and it's a great event for everybody to come out and to just kind of support local athletes in the area.
Basketball all-star game, 3-point shooting contest where even the wrestlers and bowlers and swimmers will be able to be involved. And, then we'll have a dodgeball tournament. So lots of fun things going on. I just warn everybody, if you come out, don't sit in the front row for the dodgeball tournament.
You will get hit.
You will get hit. Those wrestlers, they like to throw it hard, and they like to throw it all over the place. Even the coaches aren't safe up in the stands. But Mason, it's a fun event.
Yeah, I love going every time, and you make memories, and you kind of, last year was the first time I ever went to a basketball one, being under kind of the umbrella here, and you learn a lot of kids and kind of what they can do, and a lot of kids surprise you as well when it turns into a dunk contest in the middle of a game, and so it's a fun event, so you kind of watch what these kids can do and kind of complete and culminate a season of what they've already done.
Yeah, it did last year. The last couple of years, the defense on the All-Star game, it's kind of turned it into an NBA All-Star game. Either they chuck it up from about half court where they're all trying to dunk. So that's what it's about. It's for the kids to have fun and enjoy being there. So.
Yeah, it's a great event, as I mentioned, free and open to the public for everybody to come out to attend. We'll get kicked off with high school sports, and we're going to kind of preview stuff that's coming up this week. Big week in girls wrestling coming up this weekend. On Friday, they're going to have their state qualifying meets. Give us the rundown where teams are going to be and kind of expectations you think. I think we're going to get quite a few girls on to Iowa City coming up in a couple weeks.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and state wrestling for the girls is actually next Thursday and Friday, so that's going to be on top of us before we know it. I think we've got a really good number of kids. It's hard to know exactly how many kids are going to make it, but Audubon heads down to Atlantic. They'll be in Class 1A or Region 1. Carroll goes to Spencer. That's Class 2A or Region 7. Esac and South Central Calhoun are at Western Christian. That's a nice short haul for them. That'll be Class 1A or Region 7. And Kemper goes all the way over to Colfax Mingo, and that's going to be in Class 1A in Region 2. So all of those get underway Friday at 4 o'clock. I will do my best to get updates out as often as I can. I do have coach interviews throughout that time on Friday that will take up a little bit of my time, and then I know you two guys and Nick, if I remember correctly, are going to be out broadcasting games. So just a heads up to you guys that I might try and slip an update into your halftimes and in between games segments, and stuff like that, just so that everybody listening to the basketball games can get an update on what's going on with wrestling as well. So.
Yeah, and when we get down to state wrestling, we can talk about it more next week, but we're going to have wall-to-wall coverage for them, like it has been up on the YouTube page and everything like that.
Yep, Jeff Honnold and Bill Kane back on board for the girls, and they're going to be going down with me. So our wrestling coverage, again, will be on our CB Sports Network YouTube channel, so you can listen to it. It'll be audio only. We're working on all the sponsors and all that stuff, trying to get all that stuff up and ready to go. But they'll be live throughout the whole thing. I'll get some interviews with some of the area kids prior to that and stuff. So some of the interviews you're going to hear during the broadcast on the YouTube channel are before they head down to state. It's that way so that the guys have a chance to go grab something to eat or maybe run to the bathroom. Otherwise, they have to sit there for 6 or 7 straight hours and just talk. That makes for a long day. So we try to talk to some of the area kids ahead of time and just get their thoughts on their season. And then I'll be down there as well. And I'm going to be trying to get video interviews with all of the girls after each of their matches. Win or lose, we try to catch up with them. And those video interviews will go on our CB Sports Network YouTube channel, our YouTube page, as well as the Facebook and the Twitter page as well, and stuff. So you can find out how the kids feel they did afterwards. It'll be short ones, minute and a half. Maybe 2 minutes at the longest with the kids. But it's going to be a lot of fun. So boys wrestling. We're not going to be able to do the video interviews. I'll apologize ahead of time. Bill and I are going to be down there doing the broadcast. We both need to be up in the booth, and we don't have a big enough staff to be able to have somebody go down and do the interviews and the video interviews with each of the kids. But we'll still have all the live coverage on the YouTube channel for both the 1A and 2A session for the boys as well.
Again, you got girls qualifying meets coming up on Friday. State wrestling will be coming up Thursday and Friday of next week, the first week there in February. Local sports-wise, the last week, I would say it every week, has been busy. You know, we're getting down to the crunch time with basketball wrapping up. You're going to have swimming district meets coming up, state qualifying meets already for girls coming up on Friday. Kind of run us down the lowdown of what you've seen the last week here local-wise.
We'll start with Mason because I feel like I've kind of yapped and he's still napping over there to my left.
It takes him a little bit to wake up. That's what we're waiting for Mason to fully wake up this morning.
I wouldn't say I was napping, but for me,
stretches.
Yes.
For me, kind of the shock of the season was the jump that Carroll High just made. I mean, You beat the number 4 team in your class, and you beat a team that's in your same conference. And they went from 9 and they jumped into the rankings. Everyone's like, okay, Carroll got a 9 spot, and then you jump 4 spots and you end up at 5. So we have 3 teams in the top 5 heading into kind of this final stretch of the season, which, if the season ended today, we'd have 3 teams down at state, and we're hoping to get that and another one with the girls. But some good basketball in the area. I mean, Kemper's sitting at 2, Coon's sitting at 5. You got Nexira's girls sitting at 8 for
the last 3 months.
Yeah, since they lost to Riverside, I believe.
Yeah,
I think me and KC talked about that. They lost to Riverside to open the year, and have been the 8 team since that. But there's a lot of good basketball. I saw Audubon boys last night playing well. East Sacs boys won a couple games in a row. South Central had a good stretch in there as well. But a lot of good basketball in the area right now.
Yeah, you mentioned Carroll High climbing. What a win over ADM last week, and what a performance in that victory. That's probably one of the better games I've seen, just in the games I've broadcasted that I've seen them play in the last couple of years. And they've had some really good teams, so that tells you how well they went out and played, last Tuesday to get that win. So happy for Coach Beeson, Matt Collison, and Jared, and Trey Tassel, and Louie, and all those guys with the way they're going out and playing right now. They're a fun team to watch. Yeah. They work really, really hard on the defensive end. Offensively, they share the basketball well. They're shooting the basketball really well right now, and they're stepping up late and hitting free throws when they need to down the stretch. They're going to be tested. They've got some tough games coming up, but if they can stay right around that number 5, number 6 spot, they've got a pretty good chance to make a really good run. And hopefully when the pairings come out in about 2-3 weeks for them, that they'll get a pretty good, bracket, pretty good, sub-state to be in. So.
I think it's going to be tough to see where they're going to go just because we're on the western side of the state.
Yep.
A lot of the teams ahead of them are on the eastern side of the state, so there's not, much to go off of based off the rankings so far that you've seen. And I will add this, Jeff. I think when I got to see Carroll against Storm Lake, I'll get to see them coming up on Friday when they take on Winterset. But this might be one of Randy's best defensive teams that he's had, with the length that they have and the speed that they have, and they buy in all in on that defensive end.
Yeah, it's nice when you have a rim protector. Defenses can look really good when you got somebody that can clean up any mistakes out on the perimeter, and guys on the perimeter can be more aggressive because you have somebody that's protecting the rim. That people are going to, whether he blocks the shot or not, he alters shots because people are thinking about, I got Louie coming at me, when they're getting ready to pull up for that jump shot, if they can get around the defender on the perimeter. But that gives the guys on the perimeter the ability to be more aggressive, try to go for more steals, overplay balls and stuff like that, though they do a great job of getting back, to where they're at. So, yeah, this is a really good defensive Carroll team.
Yeah, and you talked about that buying in factor. I saw them on Saturday against Des Moines Christian. And Des Moines Christian had a guy that was in about the 20s for scoring and comes out, scores 9 right away. And when I talked to Randy about that, they talked about it during that break after the first and second quarter. They're like, you can't let him score a lot more. And he comes out in the next 3 quarters and scores 2 points because they kind of just simply, like you put it, bought in. I mean, they're fully ready to go defensively every night, and if the shots aren't falling, they're going to make up for it on both ends of the court. But, I mean, like you said, Louie allows guys like Jake and guys like Talon Crandall and Matt Collison, Trey Tassel, Landon Peterson to bite on these different passes and get into passing lanes, and you don't have to really have guys that sit on the perimeter. You can chase people the length of the court because you got Jared and Louie that can go up and block shots.
Well, and what I love about teams that play really good defense is defense travels. Offense can have bad nights. You can have a night where you don't shoot well. If you're a good defensive club, you should never have a bad night defensively because defense is about attitude and effort. And your defense can carry you on those nights that you're not shooting the basketball well, and I think that's what we've seen with Carroll, especially here late in the season. Can't forget to talk about Kemper and Coon Rapids Bayard either. What a run. I think a lot of people thought that Kemper might be done when Brock was injured and done there at the holiday break, or thought that you'd see them kind of slide a little bit. Well, they dropped initially, and now you've seen them kind of quietly crawl back up in the rankings, and I think a lot of people think they look like a team right now that could be state championship material. Dylan Schoen, Griffin Glenn, and Ryan Clare have really upped their ball game. Teddy Perkins has done a nice job, moving into that starting role. You know what you're going to get out of Jack. Great defense, hustle. Try to run the radio guy over on press row. But he's always going to play with a lot of effort, and then they're getting some good production off of the bench as well.
I gotta say, between the Glenwood game that I broadcasted and then their game this weekend, that are probably two of the best games that I've seen from Kemper this season. And the fact that they're averaging 20 assists over the stretch that they've won games. They're moving the ball well, and it's not normally – you see it a couple of times like you saw on Saturday where Ryan Clare just kind of goes off in that first half, but you're having 4 to 5 guys consistently around or in double figures for them, and you didn't see that early in the season because, you gave the ball to Brock and you let Brock kind of go off for his 20, and then somebody else maybe got double figures, but everyone else was kind of around that 6 to 7 to 8 range. But nowadays, it's a couple of guys at 10, a couple of guys at 15, maybe a guy goes off for 20, but this is some of the best Kemper basketball that you look at, and defensively, they're also bought in because, they're chasing guys around the perimeter, they're getting steals, and they're less focused about the steals part, and they're more focused about playing solid defense in the half court.
And I think for them, it always has started with the defense. I think their defense is always what has jump-started the offense. And like you said, now they're not giving up. I said last season, and then I said earlier this season after watching them against Clear Lake, if you're going to beat this Kemper team, it's because you have guards that can handle the ball and penetrate. And I thought that Kemper gave up the lane too easy and gave up too much penetration into the lane, and that's where they ended up getting hurt. I think now that they've kind of maybe changed that mindset where they're not overplaying passing lanes and it's just about being that dog and getting in front of you and not letting you get past them, I think you've seen the defense move to a next level. And now it's harder to figure out a way of how do you beat this Kemper team, because now you're not able to get into the lane. When they lost last year to Unity, everybody wants to keep talking about, or Union, everybody wants to talk about how they shot it really well from the three-point line. Well, and nowadays, man, you've got kids that can shoot it, and if you're getting open looks, it was because their guards kept getting into the lane last year, and they were kicking out to wide open threes. You give a team a ton of wide open threes, they're probably more than likely going to shoot it well. That was the same thing that I thought Clear Lake did to them early in the year. Now they're taking that away, and I think they've become so much better defensively because of that.
I'll add this before we take a break here. I think that when Brock went down, everybody's like, where does the shooting come from? Griffin has been on a tear shooting the basketball for him. He has been their main three-point threat, and he's been people talk about Ryan Clare and the numbers that he's jumped up to, replacing that scoring role. I think arguably Griffin's been the biggest jump that they needed so far this season for them, as they've been on a great roll.
Well, and Sean Minahan told me last week on the Saturday morning Pizza Ranch Coaches Show that they sat Griffin down and said, hey, you have to become that three-point threat. And he's done that, since that conversation. He's playing real well. And I know we need to get to a break, but I do want to throw Coon Rapids Bayard in there, too. They finally jumped up to number 5 in the boys' ranking. I talked with Seth Streben, their head coach, this morning. That interview is available on our podcast, our weekly podcast with him. But he's happy to be at number 5. He says they're paying a little bit of attention to the rankings because it does affect your seeding. But they're really good defensively. And what I love about this team is they are as unselfish of a basketball team. They will help each other on the defensive end. They rotate really well. And you got a kid in Cal Hayden that could probably go out and average 30 and 20, but he's perfectly fine scoring 13 and getting everybody else involved. And he does that every single night. And you got Caden Oswald and Bryce Lewis and all those guys, Ty Hayden and those guys just going out, Jace Baker, and they're doing everything they need to do as a team to be able to win ball games. That might be the most complete team that cares about team that we've got in the area.
And I think we've been talking all year that number 5 is still low. You look at some of the rankings; they're sitting at number 1.
Right.
So it's a Coon team that's got a chance to win a state title, and we've got really good basketball going on right now. We'll step away, take a break. We'll hear from our great sponsors. We'll come back. We'll talk about some national sports. I got a trivia question that might stump the guys, so we'll see about that when we come back here on KCIM Sports Rewind.
As the athletes at your house prepare for hard work and fun of the season, remember that St. Anthony Rehab Services provides physical therapy for any sports injury that may sideline your member of the team. Sports injuries can plague kids of all ages and keep them from playing the sport they love. Athletes will be under the direct supervision of a certified and licensed healthcare professional in the newly renovated sports performance facility. If an injury is keeping your athlete out of the game, call St. Anthony Rehabilitation Services at 794-5000 for sports injury and treatment rehab.
It is KCIM Sports Rewind here on this Tuesday. KC joined with Jeff and Mason here in studios. We are talking about high school sports and everything like that. We're going to talk about girls basketball coming up, but I got my trivia question,
you're
Jeff.
Good. I just wanted to make sure we didn't forget about the Spartans.
And it is in honor of the Nebraska Cornhuskers playing their greatest men's basketball they have played ever right now. So it takes me to my trivia question. Nebraska right now takes on Michigan tonight, 3-5, which is I heard your good buddy Matt Goebbels was down there last night when I was doing the Ike Manning game, and he said, wow, Jeff doesn't work on a Monday. And I said, well, I'm surprised he's going out tomorrow night with the Nebraska-Michigan game.
I worked last night. I just didn't have a game to broadcast. So,
but Nebraska takes on Michigan tonight. So to start the season, Nebraska unranked, sitting now 20-0 within the top 5. Do you know the last time that a team has done that, where they went from unranked all the way up, climbed to the top 5 of the AP poll, sitting undefeated?
No, because most of the teams that crawl into the top 5 generally, are powerhouse programs that, I'm going to say maybe I'm just going to throw out like a Creighton, maybe.
No, this is a powerhouse program.
It is a powerhouse program.
Is it Houston?
Nope. It was Florida in 2006. They started 17-0 and climbed all the way to number 2. Was when Billy Donovan was on the on the climb on them right before they won back-to-back Nationals
they won
Idols.
Back-to-back, I think, within a couple of years after that with Joakim Noah and that group of guys that came through. So, I wouldn't have thought of Florida.
Because they're a powerhouse name.
Well, today they are. As I grew up, they were just an average basketball program. But they've certainly become a powerhouse, really thanks to Billy Donovan. So
Billy Donovan did a good thing there, and then went off to coach the Bulls, I think, for a little bit.
Or Oklahoma City.
He was on the Russell Westbrook years at OKC, and then he went to the Bulls. And I don't know. He's somewhere now. I can't remember.
Yeah, I couldn't tell you for sure. So.
Yeah. Well, we'll get back to local sports. The Exira Elkhorn Kimballton girls have been on a tear this season. Dropped their first game of the year to Riverside, who's ranked number 8 in 2A right now, and then have went on 15 in a row, but have not moved from the number 8 ranking so far in Class 1A. Yeah,
and I don't know if anybody can figure it out. I'm not saying that there's anything wrong, but it's confusing how a team can stay in one spot when all they do is win, beat schools that are bigger than them, dominate pretty much everybody that they've played. It's kind of almost like they just don't want to move them, and I don't know why the reasoning that would be, and I'm not trying to say that that's the reasoning, but it is. I know I talked with Tom Peterson yesterday, the head coach down at the Spartans, and you can hear his podcast interview. He's even a little bit kind of just like wondering what do we need to do, even to move to 7 or to 6, to move up. They've scheduled as tough as possible in the non-conference schedule. They've beaten everybody in the conference and beaten a really good Coon Rapids Bayard team twice. They went to Van Meter and kind of dominated Van Meter. They beat a really good Earlham team, and stuff like that. So it's like, what do they have to do to kind of show everybody? And last year, this is the team that last year was a 2A team, and they pretty much got that team back, and they got beat in a regional final and almost beat Trainer. And Trainer started this year ranked number 1. So you look at it and you go, pretty darn good basketball team coming into the year, and they've kind of looked really, really good. So the question is why? Why have they not moved?
Yeah, and I tell you, we talk about defense and kind of, how good all the boys' defense teams are. Even me, I don't think I could play against an Exira defense. First off, because you got Tom yelling on the sidelines, and I'd be scared because you make one defensive mistake and you're going to hear from Tom, and that's what you like about a coach, though, is that he kind of he understands the game at a deep level to be able to tell the girls what they need to do, knows where they need to be at, and knows what the mistake is right when it happens. But you see that same thing out on the court between the girls out there on defense. They know where they're supposed to be. they're super physical. I mean, they borderline that physical line as close as you can get to fouling without fouling. They're right there, and they shoot the ball well. They get the ball inside really well between Jalen and Harlow, and they kind of have girls that know what their roles are. I mean, you got girls that can score 10, 12 points, but decide that, you know what, we know who the scorers are. We're going to buy in on the defensive end, get steals, and then if we need to make some shots, we'll end up making those shots.
Yeah, and you mentioned, the Bulldog mentality defensively and the physicality. I thought it was interesting when I talked to Tom yesterday that, they got some fouls called on them early against Van Meter on the defensive end because of that physicality. Smart teams, though, can adjust to the officiating. You see so many teams nowadays that this is how we play. We're going to be physical, and then they get frustrated when they're getting called for fouls and they don't adjust to how the officiating is. Well, they adjusted that night, still played hard-nosed defense, just weren't as physical with it, and ended up taking control on the road at Van Meter because they were able to adjust. Even though they stayed aggressive, they kind of reduced the physicality some. But, yeah, you mentioned you got Taryn Peterson. She can hit from anywhere from about Caitlin Clark range, and stuff. She's just a really good shooter from outside. Jalen and Harlow can dominate inside. Cadence Sporer kind of does all the little things sometimes that don't show up in the stat book. Last night, Riley Miller goes out and hits 4 threes. Watch out for her. I think now she's got a really nice shot, and now that it's starting to fall, does that give her the confidence? Yep. Zoe Rasmussen just quietly goes out and seems to hit 2, 3, 3-pointers every single game, and helps them out, and they're developing some depth. So it'll be interesting to see as the season continues to go on. They look like a team that probably should win out the rest of the games. That doesn't mean that they don't have some tough games left on the schedule, but with the way they're playing, they should go into the postseason probably with just the one loss. So do they at some point climb in the rankings?
Well, we'll see coming out on Wednesday. The girls' union will put out their rankings on Wednesday, and we'll see. But I'm right with you. I don't know how you win 15 in a row and don't move from number 8.
They're the only team in the state that would win 15 in a row and not move.
Yeah, it
unless
me.
They were number 1. Unless a team was number 1 and couldn't move, they're the only team in the state that's going to win 15 in a row and not move at all.
Yeah, that just baffles me. But I want to mention Kuhn got the chance to go down and play at the Iowa Event Center, the KC Center yesterday, knocked off Class 3A Harlan.
Yes.
Did it in a really good ball game, so a good chance for them, even despite it wasn't a state tournament game, just to get that experience is big for those girls.
Yeah, Ella Heidoff had a big game shooting the basketball, 4 threes for her as well, and she's got such a nice-looking jump shot that it was great to see her, go off. But, yeah, what an experience for them to be able to do that. I can remember a few years ago, Audubon went down and played on a Saturday afternoon down at the Iowa Event Center, and we were able to get down there and call that because it was on a Saturday. And just a fun and unique experience for kids. Hopefully they can take that and now make a deep run and get themselves down to the state tournament to kind of feel what it's like to be able to play at the state tournament there as well. So
yeah, and they've been playing great basketball. They've seen some tough competition this year. Xira twice. They saw Trainer. Kemper, who's been really good in the Hawkeye 10 so far this year. So Kuhn has really tested themselves and has a chance to at least make a regional final.
Yeah, and we certainly can't forget about the Kemper girls. Tied for first place right now in the league. It looks like we still got some time in between, but it certainly looks like their game against St. Albert down at the KC Center is probably going to determine the Hawkeye 10 Conference Championship this year, so that's going to be a really interesting one. Now, tonight they host Gilbert. Thursday night they host, Newman Catholic, and then Friday Lewis Central. So 3 pretty tough games coming up for them this week, but, if they keep playing the way they are, they've got a chance to have that St. Albert game before the Conference Championship.
And what a doubleheader that's going to be, because I know Kemper's ranked in boys, St. Albert's ranked in boys, St. Albert's ranked 3rd in girls in 1A, and then you got Kemper that's probably right on the cusp of being ranked there. If they can knock off St. Albert, probably going to end up ranked. But that'll be a fun game for Nick to call.
Yeah, it will be. I might have to go down just to enjoy it, and be on the sidelines. But, it should be a lot of fun. We've got some really good basketball around the area. We've got some outstanding wrestling. We just haven't had time. This is the reason why we're trying to get this show moved. We've literally just talked basketball for pretty much the entire half an hour, and we have swimmers that are doing outstanding. We've got bowlers that are doing outstanding. Miss Williams just finished third at the conference meet yesterday, making first team all conference in bowling, and of course wrestling. So this is why starting April the 7th, this show is going to be, probably closer to 50 to 55 minutes long. So.
Yeah. That will end KCIM Sports Rewind for you here on this Tuesday. You can listen to a podcast of it coming up a little bit. We'll get you back 10 o'clock hour on the way here on KCIM.